Hello and welcome to another edition of my tournament recaps. Last weekend, I played in another 15 by 5 minute quick tournament, this time hosted at the community college here in Salt Lake City. I was looking to basically improve on my over the board rating. I think I was 924 going into this tournament. And so just winning two against some high rated opponents, I'd be very happy. So my big goal was to beat someone over 1,000 rating for the day. And I got pretty lucky early on because the first guy I play is a guy that's a 1,500 over the board here. And then on chess.com, he's a 2,000 rated player. So he starts off as white. I'm in black here. And he goes into a E4. So I go into my Caro-Kann. But he gets me a little flummoxed because he goes with E2 here. I've never really seen that in the Caro-Kann before. But I'm like, okay, this might go into like an advanced variation of some sort. So I'll play kind of like solid Caro-Kann game, get my bishop out. I'm looking to get my pawn up, just develop as quick as possible. He brings the advanced pawn, that pawn in, kind of giving like an advanced variation vibe, but I've never been in this before. And then this was kind of shocking. Hitting this bishop, I have to retreat it. And then he's kind of pushing it, and it kind of seems like we're in a mainline variation of this opening. And so as I push out, we trade off the bishops, and then I close this up and I develop my knight. The engine's telling me I should be going ahead and taking this pawn right away. Same as for him, but we just keep dancing around this pawn. We finally exchange it. I throw a check here. He brings the knight out. I'm just kind of pushing forward, attacking this queen. And this is where kind of things went out of my way. So the queen looks, and I really don't have any attack. I'm kind of overextended. I can't really develop this bishop other than getting it out, but I also can't get the knight out at the same time. So it's gonna be really hard to cast on my king. So I try and move my knight, and this was the big point I feel like in the match that really made it somewhat even to completely losing. I ended up coming over here to C6, but what I'm actually should have probably done is gone on over here to C8, go to B6, and then drop up into the C4 square, really supplant this knight and be able to really kind of attack this position. Or I should have retreated back and just been more solid with my attack. Instead, I overextended. I went over here, knight to C6. There's really nowhere for this knight to go. I can't go anywhere really. And now I've like really taken away the position of this knight. It's not attacking anything. I can't go here. I'm gonna have to put it over here on this A6 square where it's not gonna be very effective. So he pushes on F4, attacking the king side. I'm just trying to develop. But then he realizes that he has a nice little pawn fork here. I push back, he attacks my queen. I have nowhere to go but back. And he forks my knights here. And so, unfortunately, I try to see if I can pick off a knight. He defends that. I just bring my knight back and rotate it back in, taking the pawn. By this point, I'm down 9 points. He's pushing up, trying to rip open the king side. I'm trying to do something. To help my cause, but there's not much here. I try to fork this, but he has this nice fork here where he's forking both the queen and the king. I move that. Of course, I calculated that beforehand because I'm looking at this and then taking this rook if he tries to get too greedy, but he takes there. We trade off. He gets his rooks on the 7th. He's going to get this rook on. It's going to be a checkmate in a few moves. And after this move, I resign because there's really nothing I can do to win after rook here. And rook here, I mean, it's checkmate. So either way, I'm going to be losing this game. I dropped the first game against a 1,500, so I wasn't too upset. I thought I played, great until that one move. And so I'm going into the tournament 0-1. And so I go into my second tournament playing against an 1025 here. I'm going into this game here. I'm starting off as white. He's black. Go into my E4 repertoire, and he goes into Sicilian. I don't find the Sicilian fun to play at all, mostly because I don't know how to play against it as white. So I do my King's Indian attack setup. And we just kind of set up as much as possible. Like he brings his queen out here. I see that this is happening. But I'm like, what am I going to really do to stop it? Am I going to really push this up? I should have, maybe. But taking this isn't too bad. According to the engine, it's still like barely my advantage. So losing that pawn wasn't a big deal. This is kind of part of a poison pawn, basically. And so I get my knight out, protect the rook. He brings back. I now attack the queen. The queen's moving a lot. I then get the queen out, trying to develop it, and shuffle my rooks around. Not really knowing to do. This is my biggest problem with the King's Indian attack, is I don't really know how to break through with this pawn structure. So he keeps developing. I then see that this bishop's looking to pick up this pawn and threaten my rook. So I throw this pawn up, try to say, nope, you're not going to have that. Knight comes out over here to E7. I bring up the knight here, looking to attack this bishop. And then he goes to attack my queen. I just shift the queen down. He brings the knight over, and I'm gonna push over here to f4. The reason I don't take this bishop right now is you're just gonna develop this, or he's just gonna take it with the knight, bring the knight back. It's not really improving my position very much. So once he attacks me, then I'm like, fine, I'll take the bishop since you're making me. There's no point of bringing that knight back. I try to destroy this structure as much as possible. I say, let's trade off some of these pieces. He puts a knight here. That's a very strong knight. I throw a check, king moves, I bring the bishop back. So at this point, he's got the advantage. I don't have a lot of attacking possibilities. This knight's super strong, and there's no way to kick it out because I don't have the opposite color bishop. I have no more knights. Things are not looking good for me. He pushes to h4, and I say I'm gonna just try to break this up as much as possible because now I have this lane opened up. Figure if he tries to do anything, I can stop that. He sees it and he puts this here, and that kind of swings it back in my direction. The thing that I should have done is I should have gone rook takes b7, attacking the queen anyways. The reason being, if the queen takes, then a bishop takes c6 either way, and my queen's defending that bishop, I'm taking a rook. So that's where I should have gone. I missed that tactic though. I pushed the pawn up instead, seeing that this pawn is pinned to this king. Like, great, maybe I can exploit that. He brings the rook over. I bring this rook over, looking to push, and he gets the advantage back at that point, and then take the knight, but it's a little too late. After he takes the pawn there, I shift the queen over, and I say, hey, I got rooks pointing at the king. I can get this queen involved. Like, there's an attack here for me. He brings that up. I push up. I've got this advantage. I bring the rook over. He brings that rook down, and then I'm just trying to get my pieces in a position where I can just push ahead and win. He brings that there. I should have probably brought this back, but it's okay. He takes there, we trade off, and I get this file. The F and E files are mine to control. So I'm attacking the king here. He drops back. I don't see very much of an attack still. I can't take here. I can't really do anything on this. Like the rook and the queen are guarding him pretty well. So I just say, hey, I'm gonna get close. I'm gonna take this pawn. I might take that pawn. I might take that pawn. Depends on what you're gonna do. I'm throwing a lot of pieces. He throws me in check. Not a big deal though, because I can just get over here. He brings the rook here, and that is over because what happens is you throw a check there. King comes here, and you have checkmate there. So I win my first game. I beat 1,000 rated player. I was pretty happy about it. I was very happy. Like, I'm 1 of 1 in this game, in this tournament. I'm doing very well. In this game, I actually took my time. I used probably 13 of the 15 minutes, and then he had like 12 minutes left on the board by the time he made this move. He was just blitzing moves at the end, and by taking my time, I was able to see the tactic there that won me the game. So I'm going into the tournament 1-1, going into my third game, and I'm going up against a 358 who's 1-1 as well, and I don't want to lose to him because that would be very bad for my rating. He's white. He goes d4. I don't see d4 very much in these quick tournament games. It's usually e4, so I'm playing a lot of Carl Khan games. But d4, I say, great, let's go into my King's Indian defense. He goes into the London system. I go into the King's Indian defense specifically for the London system. I get my rook here. I kind of do everything out of order. He gets everything in there, and I say, let's strike in the middle. The thing is, you're trying to get this pawn here, double fork this. I attack there. He brings this over. That's not really much of a threat because I just kick that bishop out. I get this knight out, and now I have these lines open on the file, and I'm doing pretty good. So I got a half-point advantage. He drops the bishop back. I say, cool, I'll pin this knight to the queen. He brings it out. I trade it off. This bishop's kind of useless in the Queen's Indian game, so I'm happy to trade it off. I trade off the queens. I want to get into an endgame situation because I feel like that's where I'm going to probably win. And he buckles down here. So I just kind of shift around. I'm looking to get here to try to attack this. I don't know. I'm moving my knight around, trying to open up something. Now I'm looking to try to get it here. He brings that up. I go there. He brings his rooks over. We trade that up. I brought my bishop here to trade off the rook here. But when I did that, I forgot that this is no longer guarding the pawn. So he picks up the pawn, and now I'm down a pawn in the endgame. I'm not very happy about that. My pawn structure is it's solid, but he's got 0 pawn islands himself. I go to attack the knight. He drops back. I take the pawn. He puts me in check. Great. Now he takes 2 pawns because this bishop's now protecting the knight. Things are not looking good for me. So I take another pawn. I'm trying to do something to try to push something up. I push this knowing that it's guarded here. Bishop's going to have to leave. He drops in, pushing against the king. I bring this king over here looking to say, hey, I can take one of these. He then pushes there. guarding this. I'm hoping that he takes this and I can take that. If he pushes here, I take this, and then I'm there for the stop there. So that's why I'm comfortable pushing this pawn up, but then he pushes this. And I can't take this because if he takes this, it's not looking good, right? It's not looking good. And I couldn't even take that because the knight's protecting it anyway. So I have to drop down. He's bringing the pawn storm up. I'm not happy about it. He's bringing the king over now. And then I move this knight over, looking to go here to attack this bishop because his bishop's kind of keeping everything together. And then I remember that the knight is now guarding this pawn. I lose the bishop. I lose the pawn. I'm frustrated at this point because I'm like, all right, trade it off. I have to stop these two passed pawns. He throws that there. I bring the king up. I just have to make sure I stop this. I'm ready to sacrifice the knight. He brings that there. But when he does that, he forgets that he is removing the defender of this knight. So I get to take the knight, and it basically evens up the game at this point. So he throws me a check again. I just drop back. No big deal. I know that this king is going to be able to basically protect all of this. So I'm down to push. I just put my king here. He pushes again. And then, great. He can't promote the pawn because the king takes. He can't do anything to stop it because he has the bishop that he has. I'm up a piece, and I'm going to win this game. I was fully expecting him to drop here, but that didn't happen. After I took that pawn, he realized I'm going to be taking that, and he resigned. So I'm in this tournament 2-1. I'm doing very good for myself here. And I go into the last game and I play the 10-year-old girl that I lost to in the first round of the major tournament, in which I finished top of under 800. She's now at 1200 and I get to play as white. So I play E4. She goes E5. It's like, wow, we actually might get a Ruy Lopez in an over the board game. I get that. And we go into a Morphe defense. And so when that happens, you castle. You don't really worry about that pawn. And you attack the bishop like this. You bring the rook over. Now I'm protecting the pawn. I'm trying to push for center control. Also want to get this in to stop any knight attacks or any bishop attacks in the future. And they bring the bishop out here. I get my bishop here to attack here. And we're in a very solid game. This is dead even at this point. We're 10 moves in. We're still doing our 10 move thing. This is a very theory heavy game. I now have a slight advantage after this knight move here. I go to attack the knight. We trade off the bishops. And she attacks here, and I thought I could hit here, but I didn't like trading this for some reason. I didn't like that, so I decided to push e5 instead, which gave the advantage to her. I realize now that that's the wrong move, and so they take. We open that up. They get the knight there anyways. I offer a trade of the knights. We trade that. The bishop's guarding this, but I have to retreat it, and she offers me a bishop, so I take it, and that kind of puts the game now in my favor. I wanted to take this, but I saw this. Queen's there. I could take here, but I was going to lose this pawn though. So I didn't know if I really wanted to do that. So I bring the rook over, attack the queen. Queen drops back. I didn't know what to do here, so I just made a king move over here to h1. I liked my position. I wanted to see where she was going to go with it. There's really not a good place to go with my knight. So I made a waiting move. They attack with the pawn there. We trade. They're going to take the pawn. They push here. And now they forked this knight and the rook. No worries. I'll attack this rook here, knowing that if they take, I can get this knight out of the pin, which is what happens. They bring the rook over here, and then I get this nice little fork here. The only problem is my king's exposed, and they get to throw a check, so they're able to get out. They get the rook on the 7th rank. I don't have very much to move, so I go ahead and defend that. The bishop comes here, attacks my knight. I say, great, you can go ahead and take that knight. I'll take your rook. But they're going to take the pawn. I go and attack the queen. Queen moves here to h3. I throw the check. King moves here. And then I take the pawn here on b4. So where I'm at now, we are at this point less than a minute on each of our clocks. So it's getting pretty tight. I'm not able to really annotate fast. And I wrote the same move down twice in a row. So it was like queen to f2 check, which not a way you can make that move. And so I don't remember how the rest of this game transpired. I was sat there with my book for the next 20 minutes trying to figure out how this game transpired, but I wasn't able to record it. All I remember was we get here. We have 10 seconds left on each of our clocks, and we're trying to, I'm trying to win or draw. And I'm fine with the draw at this point because where we're at. The queen just took my pawn. And so I said, great, I'll take this pawn, thinking draw, great. But I hung my queen here and I resigned. So at the end of the tournament, I finished 2-2. I beat one 1,000 rated player. My rating went up from 924 to 942. So it's about a ratings jump of 18. I'm not too upset about that. And I actually I tied for first in the losers bracket, which means I won $4 because I tied with five other people for the losers bracket. So I'll take it, right? It's a success either way. This girl is debating my chess career. I know. Her brother's also very good. They're both very good chess players. If you like that video and want to see more tournament recaps, please like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I try to play around 3 over the board tournaments a month. The next tournament recap will be here, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.